How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today I bring you an update on the George Floyd case. Now, we all know who George Floyd is, but if you don't know, I'll give you a brief recap, then we get into the update. George Floyd was up there in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and allegedly he tried to pass a fake bill at a store to buy some goods. The store owner calls the police. The police get there. They're questioning him and his passengers. Passengers are cool. It's no problem. But George Floyd was really irate, talking crazy, and he was high on drugs according to toxicology reports that were done on him. We'll get to those in a minute. He is not trying to talk to the police. He's resisting. They're trying to arrest him. And unfortunately, throughout the arrest and resist process that happened between the police and George Floyd winds up dying. One of the officers by the name of Derek Chauvin had his knee on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes, 46 seconds in an attempt to restrain him because he was acting really erratically because he was on drugs and being arrested. That became a really big point of contention. Dave Chappelle spoke about it. You got all kind of celebrities speaking about it, and that sparked the resurgence of Black Lives Matter because they had been dormant and kind of underground ever since the last election when they were trying to interfere, allegedly, in my humble opinion. Now they're back. They raised like $20 million in one day after George Floyd's death, and that has sparked this whole wave of anti-police sentiment all over the country. All right. Now, let's get back to Derek Chauvin, the guy who had his knee on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes, 46 seconds. He has been charged with quite a few things. You had second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and manslaughter. Now, I'm not sure how that's possible, how you have all those charges against one person for one crime. I'm not really sure how it works out there in Minnesota or the law as it relates to charges in general, but that's what was going on. One of those charges has been dropped, and that was a third-degree murder charge. All right. Now, this to me signals that it can go in one direction or the other. Either they're going to go and try for second-degree murder, which can carry up to 40 years in the penitentiary, or they're going to try and get manslaughter, which is obviously the lesser of all the aforementioned defenses. I think it all depends on who the jury is. And if they try to go second-degree murder, that might not work because you got to really prove a lot. Was there like an intention to cause him harm, and then did that end up killing him? Like, what was the reason why George Floyd died? That's going to be the main thing. All I could really say is that there was not an attempt to give him some medical aid when it appeared as if he needed the medical aid. Okay, maybe they were a little late with the aid, but I'm not really sure at one point the aid was obviously needed. I have no idea. Okay, but beyond that, if the medical reports, there's two of them. There was one from Hennepin County up there in Minnesota that says that the cause of George Floyd's death was probably the drugs and, some problems you already had, not the knee on the neck. Then there was a private medical report done by a pathologist, the same guy that did the revised Jeffrey Epstein report, that says that he did not kill himself when the medical examiner said he did kill himself. That same guy said that George Floyd died because of the knee on the neck, because it was asphyxiation due to his neck being crushed or something to that effect. So you got two dueling reports. Both of the reports say that he had drugs in his system. He had fentanyl that was pretty much already there. But it's a matter of, did the knee on the neck cause the death or not? If you're able to determine that, then you're able to determine what the appropriate action should be as far as any kind of charges. If the medical report says that the knee did not cause the death, then you can't get him on any kind of murder charge, in my humble opinion. The most you'll be able to do is manslaughter. And there are other officers who were there. The charges against them have stuck. The charges against them are aiding and abetting second-degree murder and aiding and abetting manslaughter. So I think they're going to try to go for manslaughter. The jury may be able to say second-degree murder because it's already right there. Not really sure how that's going to work with the prosecutor or whatever, but they may try to say second-degree murder. If they do that, then he'll beat it on the appeal with no question. Not only Derek Chauvin, but also the officers. The officers should not be charged with any kind of crime because they didn't do anything to George Floyd. They were just there on the scene. All they did was just hold his legs. I think one guy didn't even touch George Floyd. He was just standing up making sure that nobody from the crowd that was right there interfered and made sure everything was safe on the scene, he should not be charged with anything at all. Only time will tell what's going to happen, but I think that to charge him with anything would be a miscarriage of justice. It's unfortunate that George Floyd died, but I think the main thing here is the fentanyl that he was on. That probably caused his death. The whole thing with excited delirium. That was clear. That's what was happening on the tape. And if you have not seen the body cam footage, I'll link to that in the description box below so you can see it for yourself. There was no depraved heart murder. There was no intention to hurt Mr. Floyd. It was nothing like that. All they were trying to do is get him in the back of the squad car so they could take him down, get him book printed, and probably released. Because the whole thing was nothing. You talking about a fake bill? I mean, you might go to jail, but how long? That's not really some kind of capital offense. You're not finna go to the penitentiary. I don't know too much about his probation or parole status at the time. He could have been on that. I have no idea. I have no way of knowing. But if he was on some kind of probation or parole, going to have any kind of police interaction could really get him jammed up. So maybe that's why he was resisting, or it could have been the drugs or a combination of all the above. I don't really know. At the end of the day, I think that second-degree murder would be overcharging. It wasn't some kind of intentional thing where they went out there to try to attack that man, when they tried to kill that man. They're really trying to work with him. And the body cam footage, you can see what's going on. You know, they're trying to be cool. They're trying to be nice. And one of the main things you were able to see is the passengers in the car, because it was not just George Floyd in the car that day. It was not just George Floyd who the police talked to that day. You had two passengers, male and female. They got questioned by the police and they were behaving just normal. They weren't trying to act up and scream and holler, and it was just cool. They had no problems at all. As a matter of fact, one of the passengers was on the side of the road when George Floyd was resisting arrest, trying not to get put into the squad car. And she was telling him, hey, you can't win. You need to stop. He was like, I ain't trying to win. I ain't trying to win. He was just acting really crazy. The drugs is what did it, in my humble opinion. To blame the officer, I think doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because why was Derek Chauvin trying to attack George Floyd but not anybody else? Now, they say that Derek Chauvin knew George Floyd and there was some kind of revenge or payback, but did they have some kind of beef or something from where they knew each other before? Was there a problem between them before that? The tape does not reveal any kind of issue. Oh, and the last thing before I close is that the whole knee on the neck maneuver was taught and practiced by the Minneapolis Police Department. It was right there in the manual. Okay, it was right there. It was taught and it was trained to people. So if that move was somehow, illegal or improper or anything like that, then why was it taught by Minneapolis Police Department? You can't get him on second-degree murder for the knee on the neck, because that was a thing that was taught. You might be able to get him on manslaughter because he did not render Mr. Floyd aid in a timely fashion. Maybe you're able to get that, but anything else, it'd really be a shot in the dark. And if they do convict Derek Chauvin and the other officers for second-degree murder, they'll beat that on an appeal easily, because that'd be way over sentencing. And quite frankly, I think they're way overcharged right now. If anything, a civil lawsuit should be all of what comes as a result. That's it. Okay. And a civil lawsuit does not necessarily mean that you're guilty or that you're wrong. A civil lawsuit, that really would be the most of what you would get, because I don't see anything from the tape that would let me know that Derek Chauvin or the officers wanted to hurt Mr. Floyd. They were trying to work with him, but Mr. Floyd was having an episode due to the drugs that he was on, in my humble opinion. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think that the second-degree murder charge is appropriate? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. How about the manslaughter? Do you think that the third-degree murder charge should have been dropped totally? Should all the charges be dropped? What should the actual punishment be? Whatever your thoughts on that are, let me know in the comments below. You guys pretty much know where I stand. I think that the charges against Chauvin and all the other officers should be dropped. I don't see any evidence that will point towards them going to the penitentiary over what happened on that tape. I just don't see it. George Floyd was resisting. They were trying to work with him. And unfortunately, Mr. Floyd died. That's just really unfortunate. It's sad for his family. And my heart goes out to them. Prayers out to his family and friends, everybody that loved him. But just because a thing is sad does not mean it's criminal. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.